Hey, how's it going? We are back. Baseball game's going on this morning in Korea. I've got a hitting preview for game week 1 coming at you. We're going to go through some pitchers at the end. We have a lot more information now than we did a couple weeks ago. Rotations are coming together as far as starting pitching is concerned. We're going to run through how my projections work, what we take into account. I took down my week 1 preview that I put up about a week and a half ago. One, it was old news, and also I had a fatal flaw in my formula. Although I think a lot of the projections were close to what they should have been. Now I think we have some really good data to go off of. So let's get into it. All right, so getting into the numbers here, we're going to be looking at last year's data. So the full season from last year, these are all players that had over 200 plate appearances. We've calculated the total Sorare points for each player based on last year's statistics and Sorare's scoring system. Then we find the points per plate appearance. So, for example, Ronald Acuna had 735 plate appearances last year and averaged 2.86 points per plate appearances, Sorare-wise. Then we figure in park factors. Each park that players play in has a different park factor. That's based on Baseball Savant, averaging everything out. Certain parks are pretty neutral. Some parks are better for hitters. Some parks are better for pitchers. Let's say, for example, they're playing in Kansas City this week. It's a park factor of 104. I'm just adding 4% to the projection based on the fact that Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City is a little better hitter's park. If they played in Seattle at T-Mobile Park, I would take away 8% from their projection because they're playing at a better pitcher's park. Then we're looking at starting pitchers on the opposing side. And this example for Arizona here, they're facing Colorado. Freeland, Gomber, Quantrill, Hudson. I don't like any of those guys. So I'll give all of these pitchers a score between -5 and +5. Then I'll give a cumulative score for the game week, and that goes in the opposing starting pitcher column. Then we take our best guess at predicting how many plate appearances each player will get in the coming game week. Some players had 3 games this week, some have 4. And then to get our projection, we're taking their average points per plate appearance, multiplying it by their projected plate appearances this game week. We're adding in or subtracting how good the opposing staff is that they'll be facing, and then we're multiplying by that percentage for the park factor. This will give us a projection. Well, Ronald Acuna is by far the best points per plate appearance in the league. Huge gap down to number 2. He's not your highest projected this week because he only has 3 games. I've also gone through and found the low ask manager sales for limited and for rare, and then this last column gives a value, and basically the value is the projection divided by how much it costs. So points per dollar. Let's look at who the highest projected players are for game week 1. All right, we've sorted by projection, and what you can see is that Shohei Ohtani leads the bunch. 60.8, 4 games for the Dodgers. LA is at home facing the Cardinals. Cardinals pitching staff is not one of the better ones in the league. Big advantage Dodgers this week. Park factor is a .99, so slight edge to the pitcher park, but it doesn't really matter. It's pretty neutral. And I have the limited price for Ohtani. I have the rare price for Ohtani, and you can see their values. So what does this tell us? We have a couple players above 55. 3 Dodgers and 1 Diamondback, all with 4 games. All against not very good pitching staffs, all guys who hit up top in their batting orders or near the top. And you can see all these guys are expensive. But where's the value? There are a number of ways to look at this. How much money do you want to spend? Who do you already have? What I ask myself is what sticks out on this? Where are the best values? How can I get the most points for the least money? Well, the thing that I see, like a big beacon here, is this 26 on Geraldo Perdomo for Arizona's value. If we look at Geraldo Perdomo's statistics from last year, an on-base percentage of .353 means he walks a lot. He walked 64 times, only struck out 86, so he's a contact hitter without many strikeouts, steals some bases, scores some runs. All around, not a great player, but good enough against a bad pitching staff in a neutral park. 1.65 points per plate appearance puts him over 40 for a projection, and at $1.60 for his low ask makes his value 26.05 for game week 1. Other players to consider here if you don't really want to spend up. Christian Walker of the Diamondbacks. You're going to see a lot of guys on the same teams because these are the guys with 4 games. These are the guys playing against weak pitching staffs, and your top 10 or so are all in that category. Christian Walker, $7.61. He hits 3rd for the Diamondbacks. Limited at $7.61, rare at $35. Max Muncy, if you want a cheap Dodger in that potent lineup, you can get him under $10 right now. 2.04 points a minute. Anything above 2 is really good. Josh Naylor in Cleveland, not a great lineup, but a good matchup this week. He's over 2 points per plate appearance. We have Lourdes Gurriel at $4.81. Another Diamondback. You see a pattern here. You're going to want to stack these Dodgers, Diamondbacks, a couple guys from Cleveland. See some Miami in here. This all comes down to how much do you want to spend building your team? Where can you find deals? Can you find them in the auctions on this year's cards? Can you find them in manager sales? Do you want to just go to buy it now? Or do you already have these guys in your gallery and you just stick them in your lineups? So here's a look at some of the top plays. You go ahead and pause the video if you like. If we were to sort it by limited value, looking at the players who I think are going to have regular plate appearances every day of a 4-game game week, those are the guys I've highlighted in green that have a value 10 or higher. We've got Perdomo up here. He's your best one. We've got Mike Yastrzemski for the Giants. I normally doesn't play every day because he really doesn't hit left-handed pitching very well, but they face 4 right-handed pitchers to start, so I think he's going to be in there every day. Pretty good hitter against righties, only $1.50. Brian De La Cruz from Miami, for 19 plate appearances I'm projecting, only $2.67, gets to face Pittsburgh. Josh Rojas in Seattle, I believe he's going to be playing every day. I'm not 100% on this. We'll have to kind of wait and see how things shake out when the season starts. Also faces 4 right-handed pitchers. As a lefty, Rojas' bat is going to be in there. Tim Anderson signed with Miami, coming off a terrible season, but it's a good matchup. $2.21, just too cheap for him. And then Luke Raley, same situation as Rojas, a left-handed batter facing 4 righties this week. These are all things to look at. So platoons in baseball means a left-handed hitter will hit against a right-handed pitcher, but won't hit against a left-handed pitcher. They'll have somebody else, a right-handed batter that comes in to face the lefties. Some weeks, the matchups go righty, 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 righty. So those left-handed hitters are going to be in play. This week, it's the Giants getting 4 righties to start with here. So Musgrove, Darvish, Cease, Brito, projected to be the first 4 out for the Padres. The lefties on San Francisco are going to be in play. That's Lamont Wade. That's Mike Yastrzemski. That's Michael Conforto. I think all 3 of those guys are playable. If we search it by rare to get you some values, obviously the value numbers get smaller as the prices get more expensive, but you see Yastrzemski up here at only $10 for his rare. He'd be good value for game week 1. Brian De La Cruz, $14.50. Perdomo's right here at $16.76. You got Josh Bell, a switch hitter in Miami. I think he's going to get regular at bats all year. $16.06 seems like a really cheap price for a rare. Ryan McMahon in Colorado. I like him to get regular at bats. He plays second or third base. $10.91. So you got some options here if you play the rare game. If you want some cheap ads, jumping to some pitchers here, we can run through each staff. Zach Gallen's one of the top pitchers. Merrill Kelly's very good. Eduardo Rodriguez, pretty average. Brandon Pfaadt, I think a little overrated. But against Colorado, a weak hitting team, I think you could play any of those guys this week. Gallen and Kelly being the best 2. Strider, obviously your best pitcher in the league right now. Fried, very good. Sales looked awesome in camp. Philly's got some bats, so be a little careful here, but you got some good starters there. Corbin Burns, obviously a top starter. Grayson Rodriguez, very good. Tyler Wells, not so much. I like the first 2. Brian Bayo, Nick Pivetta, Cutter Crawford, Tanner Houck, all in the good but not great category for me. Justin Steele coming off a great year. Kyle Hendricks, I think, is pretty washed, but still has his good games here and there. Wicks, I'm not too sure about. Texas, obviously one of the better lineups. They won the World Series last year. The Reds are at home, so I would avoid these pitchers, whether you like them or not, because that park is one of the worst parks to pitch in. Frankie Montas, don't really love him anyway. Hunter Green has big-time velocity, but he gets hit hard sometimes. Graham Ashcraft, no thanks. Cleveland, we got Bieber. He's looked decent in spring training. He was one of the better pitchers a couple years ago, but he's getting older. Good matchup at Oakland, though. Definitely a pitcher's park, one of the best pitcher's parks. Bieber, McKenzie, Bybee, and Logan Allen. I think you could start any of those guys with some confidence against a really weak Oakland offense. We talked about Colorado. I don't like any of these guys. Arizona can hit a little bit. Colorado's pitching is pretty suspect. I would not be starting anybody in their starting 5. Just an all-out avoid. Crochet, Fetty, Flexen, no thanks. Don't want any of them, even against Detroit. Skubal, really high on him. One of the best pitchers in the league. Maeda's looked decent in spring training. Flaherty's an avoid for me. Like Reese Olson, he doesn't pitch this week. I would start Skubal for sure. Maeda in a pinch, I guess, if you want somebody cheaper. Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, Hunter Brown, and JP France. I'm avoiding France. I think Brown could be decent this year. I like Javier, and I like Valdez. Ragans is one of my favorite pitchers this year. Huge upside, coming off of a big end of last season. Definitely want to start him whenever you can. Seth Lugo, he's okay. Michael Wacha, he's okay. Pretty mediocre, but above average, I would say. Sandoval, Canning, Silseth, those are all avoids for me, especially against Baltimore. Glasnow, Yamamoto, Miller, Paxton, yes, 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 and Yes, I think you can start any of them. All of them look really good. Luzardo, Puck, Rogers, Weathers. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. Pittsburgh, not a great hitting team. Miami, good pitchers park. Luzardo, kind of up and down. He's had some great games, but he also has some clunkers. Yeah, I think you can start him this week for sure. AJ Puck has relief pitcher eligibility on his last year card. That is a huge, huge advantage, and he's going to be in the starting rotation. Can he go 5 or 6 innings and get you a win? Big time strikeout upside, and that's what you're looking for with these pitchers. Against that Pittsburgh lineup, he would definitely be in my RP slot this week if I had one. Trevor Rogers, coming off an injury-plagued season, going to get another look. We haven't had a real chance to look at him in spring training. I'm going to see what we've got before I would put him in. Ryan Weathers getting a rotation spot. I believe he may actually have relief pitching eligibility as well. So this must be another guy to look at. For the Brewers, Freddie Peralta is a go. I would get him in there against the Mets. Wade Miley and Aaron Ashby, not so sure about either of them. Let's wait and see. Miley's very average. Ashby didn't pitch last year, out all year with an injury. Got to see what we've got before we start putting him in. Pablo Lopez at Kansas City is a go for sure. Joe Ryan's looked great in camp. Bailey Ober's looked great in camp. Minnesota, one of the best pitching organizations in baseball. Play any of those three. Jose Quintana is a no for me. Sean Manaea, no. Luis Severino, no. I would avoid the Mets. Nestor Cortez looks good while he's healthy. He's got a big injury history. We'll see how long he can stay healthy, but he's looked okay in camp. We'll see what he can do this year. Carlos Rodon, don't know what you're going to get from him. Will his velocity come back? He may not be the same guy anymore. Marcus Stroman, pretty steady. Nothing spectacular. Clark Schmidt, same deal. Don't love it. For the A's, I think you're avoiding Wood, Stripling, and Blackburn. JP Sears against this Cleveland lineup, you may want to give him a look. His velocity's been up in spring training. He'd be a cheap option for you. Zach Wheeler's a top 5 pitcher. Get him in. Aaron Nola's probably top 15. But this is against Atlanta, so you got to be a little careful here. Ranger Suarez, I'm going to avoid him. Looks like these are in bold, so they are locked in right now. Mitch Keller, I am not trusting him, even against Miami. Perez, Marco Gonzalez, Luis Ortiz. These are all no's for me. Joe Musgrove, Yu Darvish, Dylan Cease, Johnny Brito, I would say, they moved King. Okay, so King was going to be another of these relief pitcher eligible guys who are going to start. King's a high strikeout guy. You're definitely going to want one of him if you can pick one up. The other 4, I would say Musgrove, I would trust, especially against San Francisco. Darvish, absolutely. Cease just coming over from the White Sox. We'll see what he has in the tank. I'm going to wait and see on him. I like his upside, but not sure. And Brito, I don't know what to make of him. I think he could be decent. Seattle's got one of the best rotations in the league. Luis Castillo is a full go every time out. George Kirby, same. Logan Gilbert, I'm going to play some matchups with. This one against Boston, I think you can certainly play him. He's at home. Best pitcher's park in the league. Bryce Miller, I think he's pretty average. I think he's a little overrated, so we'll see what he's got. And then I'm waiting for Brian Wu. He's one of my favorites, but he'll be next week. Logan Webb and Blake Snell, I'd say you can deploy both of them without any hesitation. Jordan Hicks, another reliever-eligible guy from last year. We'll see what he does as a starter. Kyle Harrison has looked good in camp. I'm still not sure about him, but we'll see what he's got. Michaelis Gibson, Lynn, Matz are all no's for me. Just not enough strikeout upside, not enough talent there. Eflin, I think you play at home. He's definitely a top 25-ish pitcher. Savale, not sure. Pepio, I like him, but we're going to wait and see. Littell, I'm not trusting at all. Nate Eovaldi seems to have his good velocity back. Looks healthy. How long that lasts, I don't know. But you've got the Cubs at home. I would put him out there. John Gray, I'm going to pass. Andrew Heaney, definitely going to pass. Jose Barrios at Tampa Bay. Don't love it. It's okay. Bassett, little above average. Kikuchi, above average. Bowden Francis, interesting guy. We're going to see if he sticks in the rotation or if they get healthy and bump him for someone else. We're going to see. I'm curious about him. And then in Washington, Josiah Gray has looked a little better in camp. Don't really know what to expect, but we're not starting anybody who's pitching in Cincinnati. And so that eliminates Josiah Gray, Patrick Corbin, and Mackenzie Gore. There's your pitching breakdown for game week 1. All right, as always, questions in the comments. I will be sure to answer those. Hope this helped you get ready. Good luck this week. I'll try to get you a game week 2 before I leave for my next vacation. I know, I'm just traveling all over the place. We're going to Ireland this time. So if I have any Irish followers, let me know what's good. And we'll see you back here soon. Thanks for watching.